My name is Yolanda Sealey-Ruiz. I'm an associate professor at Teachers College, Columbia University. I think a lot about my work, and I say that in the sense of my work is so deeply connected to future generations. My official title would be teacher educator in English education, but in the last couple of years I've been really seeing myself more as an interrupter, and I invite the students, the pre-service students in my class, to consider that as a way for them to see what they do as well. So what do I mean by teacher as interrupter? To some degree, I think it's a bit arrogant to state that we have educated or we have taught someone something. When I think about what I'm trying to do in my class, when I try to have students, predominantly white students who will be teaching in urban schools, think about their own positions. Who are you as a white woman, say? What's your positionality? How do you feel about issues of race and class and gender? As my mentor, Dr. Suzanne Carruthers, would ask, where do these issues live in you? And so as I invite my students to do the type of work which I call the archaeology of the self, this constant digging and reflecting and re-reflecting, I also invite them to understand that the schools that they're going in, that at the very least, they can interrupt the status quo that is there. And that for them to look at their pedagogy, for them to look at their practice as a source of interruption, right? So we are living in a hyper-standardized testing climate where students' knowledge, their abilities have been reduced down to the taking of a test. So my question is for my students, what type of teacher do you want to be? You can go in that environment and you can teach to the test, which many teachers will have to do. But what are you doing to raise their political consciousness? What are you doing to have them examine the test, to have them think about the test? Yes, they have to take it, but what types of conversations are you having to interrupt the belief that the taking of this test is actually going to measure how much they know? And so I invite them to think about their pedagogy, to think about not just planning units, but as you're planning units, I think a lot about the work of Gloria Ladson-Billings and the tenets of socially and culturally responsive education, that you are always shooting for high academic achievement, you are grounded in cultural competence, right? And that you are always thinking, how am I raising the socio-political consciousness of my students? And that is not the standard for education, particularly not the belief of education that should happen in urban schools. So if you're choosing to become a teacher and you're choosing to work in an urban setting, I think you need to think about how you call yourself. Because to be a teacher, oftentimes it means walking in and doing what is expected in that context. But if you are thinking about, let's say, tenets of culturally responsive education, I don't think you can see yourself in that same way. And so I invite them to interrupt the status quo of the classroom, to interrupt what people say the standards are for units and for lessons, to interrupt what people believe should be the conversations that are happening, particularly in urban schools. So I'm thinking more about that teacher as interrupter and what it affords us from a humanizing standpoint, and certainly what it affords the children that we're teaching.